This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. I want to share with you a very profound idea that we learned from the Navi Zakariya, from the Haftorah Parshas Parah. It's Yecheskel Lamed Vav, and the pasuk says, "V'lo kachti eschem min ha'goyim, I'll take you from the nations. V'kibatzti eschem mikol ha'aratzos, I'll gather you from all the lands. V'hevesi eschem al admaschem, and I will bring you to your land. V'zarakti aleichem ma'im toirim utahartem, I'm going to sprinkle on you the purifying waters. Mikol tumoiseichem umikol giluleichem atahereschem, from all of your impurity and from all of your defilement, I will purify you." But then the pasuk says like this: "V'nasati lachem leiv chadash, I'll give you a new heart. V'ruach chadasha atein b'kir bechem, and a new spirit. V'hasi roisi, and I will remove esleiv ha'even mi b'sarchem, your heart of stone. V'nasati lachem leiv basar, I'll give you a heart of flesh." God says in the end of days He will remove our heart of stone and He will give us a heart of flesh. What does that mean? Why do we have a heart of stone? And why will God remove it on that day? So the Navi Zakariya, and this comes from an interesting kuntras called Simchas Elazar. Simchas Elazar is Chidushim of Rav Elazar Simcha Wasserman, son of Rabbi Chanan, Hashem Yimkam Damai. And he was a very influential figure in the beginning of the Baal Tshuva movement. And he has a kuntras here, which is printed in the back of another sefer. And he discusses the prophecy of the Navi Zakariya. The Navi Zakariya prophesies about the future redemption. And he says, "Bayoim hahu," on that day, "Yigdal ha-misped b'Yerushalayim," the eulogy will be magnified in Jerusalem. "V'safta ha'aretz," and the world, the earth will eulogize mishpachos levad, families by itself. So, b'yoim hagadol ha'asid, on that future great day, Hayoim asher yashav Hashem shvus oilei Yaakov el ir hakodesh Yerushalayim. What day is this referring to? On the day that God will return all the Jews from around the world to Yerushalayim, U'she'eres Yisrael yashuvu l'Tzion, and the remnant of Israel will return to Tzion. Yeh misped gadol b'Yerushalayim. There will be a great mourning in Jerusalem. V'safta ha'aretz mishpachos, and the world will eulogize families by families. This is very strange. Here, this is supposed to be the happiest day of existence, the day of the return to Eretz Yisrael, the day of the Geula. And it says on that day, the crying will be uncontrollable. It will be the saddest day in history. That the happiest day of history will be the saddest day in history. Says Rav Simcha Wasserman, "Dvarim elu oimrim darsheni." This topic requires great explanation. Haloi la'es ha'geula asida, the time of the future redemption. L'chayr hayitzach l'skayim Yerushalayim sasan v'simcha yimatzeba. You would expect to be very joyous, a joy that was unparalleled. But umahu ha'inyan ha'b'chi v'ha'misped ha'gadol b'shuv Hashem eshvus amai. What's the pshat over here? Why will that be the saddest day in history? So says Rav Wasserman, "Anu she'eres ha'pleita asher hishra Hashem." We, the remnant, those who survived. Acharei asher saraf es hasreifa ha'gedoyla ba'ner goroiv minyan u'binyan shel achinu me'yisrael b'artzos Erupa. Rav Wasserman is writing this in the aftermath of the Holocaust, when the majority of the Jewish people were destroyed. And we're the remnants, we're the survivors. Really, tzrichim hayinu latzeis midatenu. We should really have gone mad. We should have gone out of our kelim. And the truth is, many of the survivors write that when they came to America, people tried to help them financially, people tried to help them find jobs, but nobody understood they didn't need money, they didn't need jobs, they needed mental stability. They needed therapy. To see that, I mean, today, a kid that sees a chveis, a little trauma, so the kid's traumatized for life. Imagine somebody who survived the Holocaust. Really, we should have gone out of our kelim. How could we continue when our fathers and our mothers, our brothers and sisters, our sons and our daughters, our whole world has been destroyed. However, as history repeats itself, when Yaakov Avinu when Esav came to fight him, we know Yaakov divided his camp into two camps because he said him So asked Rabbi Chana, asked Rabbi Simcha Wasserman, why split the camp into two? Well, what value is it to have a second camp if the first camp is killed and the second camp needs to be institutionalized? What value is it to split the second camp? Well, the survivors, what good? The survivors are better off dying if they're all going to be scarred like that. The only purpose of a machane hanishar rakidei lahakam echad is only to rebuild. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? Hashem created a certain phenomenon. And that phenomenon is Hashem made a miracle. And the reason we didn't go out of our kelim, and the reason why Klal Yisrael was able to survive for 2,000 years, is through a miraculous phenomenon called God making our hearts turn into stone. And we became numb and callous to the tragedy. Yeah, once in a while we could remember it and feel it and give a little krechts, but that's all lip service. It's not deep. Because if it would be deep, we would go insane. Otherwise nobody would... You think people who came to America in 1950 could have rebuilt their lives had God not intervened and created the phenomenon that the Navi Zakariya says, and that is turn their hearts into hearts of stone? Because if they would have had human hearts of flesh and blood, they could not have woken up one morning in their life. Uma osa HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yechezkel HaNavi misnavi alo eis asher HaKadosh Baruch Hu yikabetz es Yisrael mikol haratzos v'yavi oisam alad masam v'oimer v'nasati lochem leiv chadash. God says when Moshiach comes, He's going to give us a new heart, v'ruach chadasha etein b'kirbechem, and a new spirit He's going to place in them. V'hasiroisi es leiv ha'even mi b'sarchem. I'm going to remove your heart of flesh. V'nasati lachem leiv basar. I'm going to remove your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Mavuar, we see from here. Sheviyoseinu b'galos, that when we are in exile, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sam b'kerbeinu leiv even. God gives us a heart of stone. Ulefima shehigdamnu, based on what we've just given as an introduction, based on our introductory remarks, hatzorich b'oisel leiv even mavuar. The requirement and the necessity for this heart of stone is self-evident. Rak leiv even yachol lahachzik ma'imid b'chal hatzor she'ovdos aleinu. Only a heart of stone could survive, could tolerate what traversed upon us. Kasha b'chol dar v'dar oimdim aleinu l'chaleisenu. Rak b'shel oisay leiv even in anu yotzei midateinu. It's only because God gave us a heart of stone that we didn't go mad. And that's how we have the strength to rebuild. However, it's not good to have a heart of stone. A heart of stone is good to tolerate a difficult circumstance. But a Jew really, the ideal is for a Jew to have a sensitive heart, to have a soft heart. But we can't have one. Because if we would have one, we would not be able to wake up in the morning. But that's not the ideal world. The ideal world is for us to have a sensitive heart, but we couldn't exist with it. But on that day, on the day that Moshiach comes, and we'll only have sasain v'simcha from then on, and we'll only have happy occasions, so we won't need anymore the heart of stone. God will then give us a new heart, a heart of flesh, and all of a sudden, 3,000 years of galus are going to hit us like it never hit us before. And we're going to be able to really feel the pain of all the past Jewish tragedy. And it's going to hit us like a ton of bricks. And on that day, we're going to cry and cry and cry and cry. And rivers of tears will flow. Tears that have been restrained for 3,000 years because we had that heart of stone. So on the day Moshiach comes, it will be the saddest day in history. That's the explanation of why on the day of the coming of Moshiach, the mourning in Yerushalayim will be greater than any other time. Because on that day, we won't need any more of this protection of being callous to Jewish tragedy. Ulam ba'emes ein matzav zeh shel lev even matzav ratzoi. This is not really the ideal. We are commanded to cling to the attributes of God. Mahu racham afata, mahu chanan afata. Aleinu lahargish ulashtatef b'tzar hazulas. It is incumbent upon us to feel, to join in the pain of someone else. La'es ha'geula asida. In the time of the future redemption, acharei shamach haneshar yivneh v'yishakim esanei ratzos, when God will rebuild that which had been destroyed, and when the binyan of Klal Yisrael will stand tall in Yerushalayim, az yasir HaKadosh Baruch Hu lev even mikirbeinu, God will remove our heart of stone. V'yiten lanu lev shel basar, He'll give us a heart of flesh. Pisoim nargish be'emes es kol hatzar v'hakav shavar aleinu. We will suddenly feel and be sensitive to all the past tragedy, and that's what the Navi Zakariya means by Yom Hahu Yigdal Mispeid B'Yushalayim V'Safta Haaretz. Ad Oz, but until that point of time, we carry on with hearts of stone. Maybe 3 weeks a year, we soften up a little bit, and we remember, and we recall, and we feel the pain. But the rest of the year, we can't afford to think back. We have to roll up our sleeves, pick ourselves up, and build for the future, and so to speak, forget about the past tragedy. But on that day, when our hearts are sensitized again, it's going to be a day of grief. So that's Reb Simcha Wasserman's very, very powerful and poignant explanation of the Navi Yecheskel and the Navi Zakariya.
How long will it last?
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.